Hello everyone, my name is Jay McFarland. Welcome back to Joyful Parents, where we give you parenting hacks that can bring joy into your parenting and get rid of some of that anger and anguish. I did a video a while back about mental health and how I've realized that I suffer from mental health issues, specifically extreme social anxiety, to the point where I would be a hermit if I could. And I shared with you how I discovered that. But I wanted to share with you some of the other ways that it impacts me on a daily life, and maybe some of the ways that I have overcome them, just so you can see what somebody facing these issues goes through. Now, I dropped out of high school, as I've told you before. I did get my GED finally. I got it about 2 years ago. My son and I, we went down and we took it together and we both passed, and I was very excited about that. But I did not graduate from regular high school, and I've thought a lot about what it was that kept me from going to high school. And I'll tell you, there's two reasons that I didn't graduate. The first is I was terrible at doing homework. I could capture the information in the classroom, and if you tested me on anything taught in the classroom, I would ace it. I would get straight A's. But if you tested me on anything on the homework, I wouldn't get it because I didn't ever do the homework. And so that was the first problem. The second problem is, for whatever reason, I was petrified to walk into a classroom, even if it was all people that I knew. Just the feeling of them all staring at me. I don't know how to describe this. I've since learned that it is extreme social anxiety. Even today, at the age of 53, when I go to church, my wife will walk in first and she will find the seat for us, and then I will follow in behind her. And it's just this social anxiety that I have. I explained to you before, it's been described to me as a heightened fight or flight situation where my hormones and the chemicals in my brain, for whatever reason, in these situations where somebody might be slightly nervous, they fire off in my brain to the point where I have extreme physical reactions. It's not just anxiety in my mind. It's heart palpitations. I can't breathe. My vocal cords tighten up. My face turns red. I start to sweat. So it's real physical manifestations that I have to deal with. And I'm getting better over the years, but you can imagine when I was in high school, this process happening every time I walked into a classroom, an auditorium, anywhere. I just couldn't do it. And so I would walk to school. I think it was about a mile and a half to school. So I'd walk to high school, and then I'm like, I don't want to go into these classes because I'm petrified, and not knowing what I was feeling. And so I discovered one day that the theater to the high school, that the door wouldn't latch all the way when it was closed. So I'm like, the theater is not used most of the day. It's only used for assemblies, and it's used after school when there are practices for plays. So I went in there, it was dark, climbed up on the stage, and I remember at the time they were preparing for the play, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And this set was just all giant building blocks. And I found that I could go and I could crawl in under one of these building blocks, and I could go to sleep. And I would sleep all through high school. And I would do this every single day. And sometimes they did have play practice, or sometimes they even had assemblies. And I'm up there underneath the You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown set, and I am just sacked out. I guess I didn't snore. Nobody ever heard me. But I'm up there and I'm sleeping the days away. And because there is not a lot of parental supervision in my life, Nobody is getting the word at home. I don't know if the high school didn't call. I don't know if they called and nobody answered, but nobody was getting the word at home that I wasn't going to class. So I just kept not going. And then one day I had this brainstorm and I'm like, why am I walking to school, for 1.5 miles just to sleep? So I came up with a new plan. I went out in the garage, and in the garage, most garages aren't finished, and this was an arched roof like this, and so there were 2x4s spanning the top above the cars, and there was some plywood that had been set up there for storage. And so one day I climbed up there and I spread out it was luggage and other things. I spread that out. I got some blankets and I got a pillow. And what I would do is I would walk out the front door with my backpack on, dressed for school. And then I would walk around the garage, and we had another side door to the garage. And I always made sure that was unlocked. And I would enter that, I would climb up into the rafters, and I would sleep all day long. And then when school was over, get up, come down, climb around, come in the front door like I had been at school all day. I did this for months and months. And I don't know if my parents ever found out. And I don't know if they ever found out that basically I had dropped out of high school. It was pretty simple. When people don't, when there's no repercussions, when parents aren't climbing down your throat, it was so much easier for me to do that than it was to walk into a classroom. And that's just one of the ways that this manifested over my life. Another way was I would have these great ideas throughout the years. You may know, if you listen to my political podcast, that I'm always coming up with ideas. I have solutions for many of today's political problems. And I've had these ideas for inventions and things throughout my life, but I could never do anything with them because in order to get something done with them would require me to reach out and to contact other people. And so my wife kind of has this running list, and I would come up with this idea and she'd be like, that'd be a great idea. And then of course I couldn't do anything about it. And then a couple of years later, we would actually see that idea come to pass. And it just happened a few weeks ago. And I'm to the point now where I'm like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to take these ideas and become a multimillionaire, but I don't have it in me to get over these things. And so we watch these ideas, one after the other, after the other, after the other, just come and go. The way I got into talk radio, if there wasn't something called email, I would have never made it into talk radio. I saw this little radio station that would put anybody on the air if you wrote them a check. And so I emailed them and reserved a time to go on the air, and went in and did a radio show with no training or anything. And then I sent emails to the main program director of the main radio station, and I basically lied to him and told them that I was other listeners, saying, hey, have you heard this JayMac guy? He's great. He listened and actually gave me a job on the real radio station, and that's how I got my way in. That would have never happened if I had to go and knock on his door or introduce myself personally. It just never would have happened. I told you that even today, I have the hardest time returning things. By hardest time, I mean I don't return things. So my wife keeps the receipts of anything that I buy, and if it doesn't work, she'll be the one to go and do the return. And she's super glad to do it. And otherwise, I still have a bunch of stuff in the garage that I never returned. And it also happened at work. At work, at the radio stations where I worked, most of them were cubicle farms. And so to go anywhere, you're passing by these cubicles. And I never could get up the courage to say hello to people as I walked by their cubicles because of this anxiety that would build up to say hello to people that I've been working with for 10 years. I mean, there's other examples, like most people will rush to get to the elevator. Hold the elevator. Not me. If I see people in the elevator, I'll stop and I'll get out my phone and I'll act like somebody just called me so that elevator will go so that I can catch the next elevator by myself. When I'm in the bathroom, I always use a stall. I never use a urinal because I don't want to have to talk to somebody next to me at the urinal. And I will sit in the stall and wait until the bathroom is empty before I get out of the stall and wash my hands and leave. So these are things that I still face every single day. Now, as I told you before, running for Congress really made me have to change a lot of these things, and it was very difficult, but I had some really key people behind me. I have my campaign manager who will call anybody. He's a bulldog. He knows my condition, and he's like, don't worry about it. I'll call him. I'll set it up. I'll do it. I have my wife who understands my situation. She will call anybody and do anything. And if it wasn't for these people, there's no way that I could run for Congress. But I have gotten to the point where if it's a scheduled event, like if we're having an open house somewhere, I can stand at the door and introduce myself as people come in. So I have made some progress, and I know that I will continue to make some progress. But I share this with you because I want you to know it's real. Problems with the brain are real. I've said this before that we understand when the lungs have problems or when the heart has problems. We never question that. But when the mind has problems, we're like, oh, come on, you're not depressed. You don't have anxiety. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, whatever. And I think it's important that we don't resort to, oh, it's a chemical reaction first, that we try to help people cope and that we use therapy and those kind of things. And I do think that drug treatment should be the last effort, but I don't discount it anymore. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And if you're one of the people who faces these types of things, I hope that this helps you understand that you're not alone. And I know that this is a parenting channel, so you're probably like, Jay, why are you sharing this on a parenting channel? Well, because there may be a chance that your child is going through this. There may be a chance that they're cutting classes or avoiding events or doing things like this because they are facing the same situation that I faced. And in that case, yelling at them and punishing them is not going to solve the problem. Oftentimes, it's going to make it even worse. So I encourage every parent to get counseling for their children, whether they think they need it or not. It's just a good, healthy step to teach them that they can look outside for help. I know as parents, we feel prideful. We feel like we should be able to be parents on our own and handle all of the issues. We got to stop thinking that. There's nothing wrong with seeking help for you and for your children. So I share a lot more in my book and my online course called Joyful Parents about this particular issue. Check it out. It's at jaymcfarland.com. If you like the content that you've seen today, you can really help me out and help me continue to be able to share it by subscribing to this channel, liking it, and hitting that bell so that you're notified anytime that we post a new video. And we're posting once a week right now. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you'll share your stories in the comments about the different issues that you face. Let's share so that we can all understand that we're not alone and we don't have to face these battles alone.